Welcome. It's not quite a full moon yet, but I feel certain that you probably have felt it. I know for me, I generally feel the full moon about 3 days and sometimes even longer before it actually peaks and feel it afterwards too. So if you've been feeling it this week, what I am here to do is to deliver some clarity and maybe some discernment about the challenges that you may or may have not met and how we can deepen into these life lessons as we are at a major turning point um, as we're closing winter. We're entering into spring this weekend. It's also the last full moon of the zodiac year. And so we begin a new zodiac year after this full moon. Um, and you can feel this even in like the mainstream narrative that so much has settled about COVID. You don't hear about it at the level that you did hear about it for 2 years. So what is on the horizon on a global scale? And then what is present for us personally? So I'm going to take a minute and just start to tune in, and then we will draw some cards. Okay. So I'm going to shuffle these. The first card deck I'm going to work with is a Mystical Shaman Oracle deck. This is one of my favorite decks, and I really tried to use it mostly for just myself, but it wanted to come out for this reading today. And drawing these, we're going to look at kind of a collective overview of what we have been tuning into this week, what this full moon is about, and then what the next phase is. So this week, full moon. Next phase. All right. This week, soul retrieval. You see that's a butterfly coming out of its chrysalis. And is this the moon or the sun? This looks like the moon. So that's a really interesting synchronicity. And the Andean cross. Correct? Coming. Water. So much water as we're leaving the sign of Pisces and moving into Aries, and that's the changeover in the zodiac year. Pisces is the last in the zodiac. So if you lived if you live in Birmingham, we also experienced a really unexpected deluge yesterday, and there have been high emotions this week. I've observed it in other people. I haven't felt it quite as much in myself, but very aware that there is this watery energy that a lot of us have been working with maybe for a few weeks now, but it's with the full moon, it's coming into culmination, and water always represents emotions and fluidity and adaptability and cleansing. So this may be something that you're coming into a completion of whatever this has been for the last 3 weeks that keeps coming up for you. Maybe you've been struggling with. So let's read and go a little bit deeper. We're going to start with what we have been feeling this past week with this soul retrieval. So the soul retrieval is a practice that helps you recover a part of yourself, your energy, your enthusiasm, or your innocence. At first, we'll use soul retrieval to recover from our hurts and heal our childhood wounds. Later, we learn to journey to recover our original nature, that self that never left the Garden of Eden, who still speaks to the rivers, to the trees, and to God. When we return to Eden, we are whole again. So the invitation here is to start perceiving yourself as whole, that you're no longer fragmented. So maybe this has come up for you this week. Noticing your flaws, noticing these parts of yourself that aren't fully integrated or aren't fully healed. Maybe you've reared your ugly head. Your emotions have gotten the best of you. And what this shares is that remembrance of divine unity. I feel like any of you watching this could relate that at some point you have felt that. You have felt that blissful experience of being perfectly aligned and connected back with God, with Source. And this Virgo moon seems to, there's a lot of focus with the body. Virgo rules over digestion. I believe it rules over spleen as well. And these are parts of our system that there's transformation that happens. There's extraction. We eat or we consume something, and then it goes through the digestive system and it's broken down and assimilated. And these organs extract prana to be able to use as life force for the rest of the body. And I think that this is something that we can get really caught up in the transformational process as a way of getting away from ourselves, of actually rejecting ourselves. There's really common threads of that you see with weight loss, that I want to lose weight because I hate my body, or I want to change my body because people judge it for looking this way. And there's a number of different ways this may show up in your life. And that motivation behind it will keep you circling back to your starting place. That's why a lot of fad diets don't work, is because the motivation doesn't come from, I truly love myself. I want to get healthy. I want to come back to myself. So what happens if the transformation actually takes place by you coming back to yourself and recognizing that you're perfect as you are, that you really have never separated from Source? What happens if you shift that transformation to needing to do something outside of yourself, to changing your perception, your self-perception with self-love and care? And therefore that initiates in the outer world the product of that way of seeing yourself. So one of the things that it offers for this is, when did you compromise what you truly believed in to be loved or accepted by someone? And thinking back over your life, and find a time or times when this has happened. And really ask, where do you stand with yourself, and where do you compromise? Where is your integrity? And can you make a vow to yourself as we move into the flow of spring to not bring that with you, to close that out, bring it to completion? That story is not true or in your highest good. Is it a true reflection of who you really are? And then the Andean cross. So this is current, and with this moon, this is collective. The Andean cross represents the cosmology of the shaman. It depicts the four cardinal directions, the upper and lower worlds, and the steps to reach these realms. The hole in the center is a gateway to interdimensional travel. The proverbial eye of the needle we can all go through to experience higher states of awareness and wisdom to break free of linear time. And we're up against some really interesting timeline choices right now on, if you look at things from the global perspective, what will be the outcome of these current world circumstances. The Andean cross announces the start to a great journey. It's time to raise your gaze from the mundane day-to-day to that which until now has seemed beyond your grasp. Allow new wisdom to guide you and stop trying to make sense of it all before you respond with a resounding yes. The time has passed and the window of opportunity is closing. Now is not the moment to take the leap that you have been over preparing for. It is best to wait until conditions in heaven are lined up again to offer you a more propitious moment. Any bold action you take now can require tremendous effort on your part. And it is important as knowing when to act, as knowing when to return to your inner stillness and wait for favorable times. It almost feels that there's a divergent path that is happening as we cross over into this new year and into the spring. And looking at these other cards on a personal level will help to tell you which timeline you might be on. And with water, it symbolizes purification, regeneration, birth, revival, and cleansing. And it signifies an evolutionary shift from former self to new self. Many myths around the world speak of a great flood and the new life that is revealed after a deluge. Well, isn't that synchronistic? Water begins without boundaries. Then as soon as form has separated itself from water, it comes under the laws of time and life, thus acquiring limitations. When water arrives, you're invited to watch your emotions. Know they are going to be changeable, and do not settle on a conclusion at this time. If you feel joy, feel that fully. If you feel sad, allow sadness to move through you. Water invites you to see the ebb and flow of events and trust you can ride the wave of opportunity when it arises. Natural flow is here. Go with it. So this is a time of great baptism, of cleansing, of everything that I have already stated and that has come through in the cards. And this talking about all of the emotions this week. And maybe it's been really hard, and you have to look for the good when you're in these situations, not denying what they are, not denying the emotions attached to them, allowing yourself to be in that really real, raw human experience and call it what it is, but look for the gift, look for the lesson. Look for the light. It's there. It's always there. It's the laws of duality. You're going to find both. You will find death and life and death. You will find light and dark and light. So don't get stuck in this perpetual motion of maybe negativity or get caught in the story around whatever the emotional upheaval is. Just shift the perspective enough to look for something different this time and to know that it will change, it will shift, it always does, and that you can adapt in that moment by shifting your perspective. And then we are going to pull from the, losing my voice today. We're going to pull from the Untethered Soul deck to really address the mind space. Personally, free yourself. Those are hard to see, aren't they? The purpose of spiritual evolution is to remove the blockages that cause you fear. Can you feel how that's related to these last 3 cards, especially the water card and the soul retrieval card? You know, when we're in that space where it's challenging and we just want it to be over, like we just want to escape, we want to be to the next thing, we have to remember that without that, we will stay the same. And if we stay the same, we will continue to meet these cycles of suffering. And I don't know about y'all, but I really want to continue to change and develop and see the world change and develop in positive ways too. And it will only happen if we each individually are committed to that process of evolving. And it happens through facing the blockages, recognizing that we have blockages, what those blockages are. Sometimes you don't even really need to know the story about where it came from. Sometimes it's helpful. But if you're not willing to work with it, if you want to just ignore it and put it in your backpack, you can wait and visit it again when it comes back around, because it always will until you have fully met it and accepted it. So on a global scale, I'm going to fill into what the overall spiritual message is, or rather the quality that is being presented, the divine quality that's being presented to the collective, the quality of ascension. In seeking ascension, the power of love must become the fervent heat that will cause the elements of the mortal creation to melt and propel the candidate for ascension into the great cosmic pool of immortal love and light. So I know that that's so very etheric. Even that word pool, and reminding me again of this element of water. Melt, that's another word that is connected with water. That these are, what we don't realize is that it is the emotions that creates the momentum for consciousness to rise. You know, emotions are magnetic and they bind with thoughts, which are electromagnetic. And when we're able to unbind those lower frequencies, those lower states of consciousness and emotion, then the electricity is able to move more freely. It's able to self-organize itself. We are developed, created in such a way that we are self-organizing, self-healing. And that the planet right now is in this huge ascension. I feel that we have these waves of ascension that come through, and we tend to see it on a global scale, like a pandemic, like certain phases in the pandemic. It looks like escalation. Maybe we can shift that and see it through the eyes of a spiritual lens, and we call it ascension. Some of those symptoms that don't feel so good from that would be like ascension or a healing crisis. I'm really looking forward to coming out of Pisces. This is me wanting to come out of my emotional stuff because I have had trouble communicating as freely and easily as I typically do. But yes, we are in this next evolutionary phase. Humanity is in we're coming up on another big ascension wave. What that is, I'm not fully sure, but I think that we're going to really start to feel that in April. And I think that that can be a really, really experientially a wonderful thing. But we can't deny the process when it shows up. Just meet it and know that you're going to be more free on the other side of it. Don't get stuck in the story. Let's see if we can get a little bit of guidance as to how to best close out this chapter for this winter, this new moon. So the two cards I got were Sacral Chakra and Twin Flame. So our sacral chakra being the seat of our inner child, also the home of relationship. How is what you have been experiencing and the life that you want to create, the relationships you want to have, how is your relationship with the inner child, and does that reflect those same values and concepts that you're wanting to construct with other people and in the outside world? Or is there still some healing there? Is that where the emotion is coming from? Is it coming from the inner child that has not been set fully free, who has had their voice taken away from them, or is working too much and isn't getting time to play, or just is not receiving the care and the love that it deserves and it desires? This part of us that at some point the psyche was stunted at. And with it, there is an emotional stunting too. So is this an opportunity for you to go into that sacral center and notice if you can help cleanse that blockage? Sacral is also related to water. We keep coming back to the element of water. If you find that it's really difficult for you to be with your emotions, see what happens if you introduce the actual element of water into some kind of cleansing ritual, something that is symbolic for you. Hot baths are always a really great way for us to not just relax our body and our mind, but to also release negative energy in our energy field. When we're relaxed, it's easier for us to access our heart, which is really where we are experiencing feeling from. But the emotion itself may still be held in that sacral center, that wounded self. So using water in some kind of cleansing, bathing ritual, maybe it's that you take a bath and you set the intention when you step into that bath, and when you come out, that you're leaving everything behind. You're leaving all of the times that you weren't enough, all of the times that you were, called names, the times that you were left alone, the times that maybe you don't even remember, but you have a story that has revolved around your life and the way that you show up for yourself and for other people. Maybe you can allow that to go down through the drain. Or even standing underneath a waterfall or underneath your shower and letting that rinse all of those parts of you that have been holding on to that trauma and to that story, letting it wash over you and rinse away. And with the twin flame, let me sit with this. Where are you compromising? Where are you compromising your relationship? Initially with yourself. Do you have a solid relationship with yourself on every single level of being? Do you have a healthy relationship with your physical body when you look in the mirror? Do you love what you see? Do you appreciate it? Do you acknowledge it and do things that make it feel good? Do massages or put lotion on or skincare, hair care, or dress it up? You know, how do you talk to your body? How do you see your body? What kind of relationship do you have with that? And do you see a parallel between that relationship and any romantic relationship that you have? And then what is your emotional relationship with yourself? Do you acknowledge your feelings when they come up, or do you suppress them and not allow them? Do you investigate and care for them, or do you berate and get angry because you feel something? What is the dynamic with your emotional body? How fluid is it? And does it take control of your mind? Do you allow it to provoke other parts of your being? Does it run your world? What is that relationship? Does that parallel with your partnership, your romantic partnership? And then at the mind, at the mental body, how is the relationship with your mentality? How do you see the world? Are you a glass half full or half empty? How do you perceive yourself? How do you perceive? Is there a general lens that you wear? Maybe it's like, this person's always out to get me. Like you don't fully trust because you think everyone's out to get you, or you always have that thought that you really don't belong, or you have this concept that you're a victim and that the universe is wanting to, I guess that's another way of saying out to get you. What is the relationship with that? And does your mind rule your life? Or do you spend enough time with the mind, with the ego, and becoming friends and ally with the ego instead of letting it control you and become the critic and the one that actually is in control most of the time, the one playing through in the subconscious and also in the conscious, the one that blurts out and reacts through the emotions, but speaks through the mental body. You know, the emotions give the charge for the mental aptitude. So what is that relationship? Does it parallel your romantic relationship, and how? And then lastly, the spiritual. This is a place that I think there can be a even more vulnerability than maybe at almost every other level. It's very individual, but what's your spiritual connection like? If you feel like you can't find anybody who you can talk to or experience, share mystical experience, spiritual, religious experiences, thoughts, feelings about, if you don't feel like you have a tribe or people in your life that understand you spiritually, what is your relationship like with spirit? You see where I'm going with this concept of twin flame, inner unification, your union with the divine within you first, and then it is mirrored outside of you. You attract it because you are it. Becoming. We become what we be. So as you go through this full moon, this releasing time, and we move into the planting, what do you want to become? Really get clear on that and maybe look at all of those different levels that we went through. Then be that. Be that to yourself. Be that to your partner. Be that to your children, to your parents, to your friends, to your coworkers, to the stranger, to your enemy, to the world. But first, be it to you. I'm going to pull one last card. And this is for just to go a little bit deeper, even though 3 jumped out. Hearing truth. Hearing truth. We don't want to hear truth. Truth is inconvenient. Truth means that we have to face something. Truth means that we might have to admit that we're wrong. It means that sometimes that means everything we believed in was not accurate. And our whole belief structure begins to crumble and it feels really unstable. And there is a primal instinct to jump to any conclusion that feels safer. It's much safer to just follow than it is to lead without knowing. I'm just going to show this picture one more time because it's really fantastic. There is a deeper truth that shall bring peace to your heart, offering you guidance, comfort, and renewal. You are guided to turn within for your answers. Do not allow another to interrupt, influence, or distort your personal, trusting relationship with the divine. Allow Spirit to be your highest counsel always, and you shall never be led astray. You shall know the words to speak and the consciousness to hold to evoke healing and set things right. Listen from deep within. Truth is known. Focus on what you know to be true by tuning into what you feel and not focusing on appearances or the opinions of others. The voice of Spirit is deep within you. Anytime you want or need guidance, you have the ability to tune in to that inner voice for peace, comfort, and clarity. It takes courage to turn within. Rather than to put your faith in the people and things of this world, but you have enough inner strength and wisdom to do this. The truth within has been spoken. Trust that you can hear it. Listening goes beyond spoken words. Reflective and respectful listening is a healing method in modern psychotherapy too. Deep listening opens us to truth without words and their logical meaning. It is the way the soul hears in a deeper way, beyond words. The heart is capable of recognizing what is needed and realizing healing outcomes through care and presence. When you listen with your heart, you have an intuitive ability to recognize the truths of the Spirit. Life often involves mastery over extremes. Your soul may progress through energetic highs followed by crushing fatigue, feeling taxed beyond mental and physical limits, near-death experience, a symbolic death of the personality, a profound challenge of body or mind, or a period of spiritual darkness that eventually leads to a healing rebirth. Such challenges are a form of initiation that teach the soul to consciously contain and channel energy, to exercise will instead of being tossed about by the forces of the world. It takes time, but eventually the soul learns to live from a place of inner balance and spiritual grounding. hearing truth. I hope that you enjoyed this full moon spring equinox reading. And I also have added a sound healing that channeled through for this particular time. And I think I'll add it to this video so you'll see it up there in the right-hand corner. And as always, it's such a great gift and pleasure to serve this community and to be seen and heard. And I'd love to hear your comments and let me know how you are dealing with the energy now, what's present for you. And I look forward to connecting again very soon. Stay pure and keep it simple. Pura vida.